Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate all your support and, for a wonderful cause. And I just want to say, if you're not watching this live, if you're watching the recording, because we are going to put the recording up on YouTube, there is a button to the right or beneath, which will enable you to buy me a coffee. It's all right, you're not buying me a coffee. You're just going to make a donation that way. And that just seems to be the easiest way to do it. So if you're watching this via video, please click on that and you can buy me as many cups of coffee as you want. And we will add that to the donation amount, okay? I'm delighted to do this. And just to let you know, my plan is, if you guys haven't heard of this person, there is an organization called World Central Kitchen, which is headed up by Jose Andres, who basically goes around the world he's a well-known chef, goes around the world to different disaster areas and basically sets up kitchens in the middle of no place and cooks for people. He was in Puerto Rico after the hurricane. And if you want to check him out, if you just put his name in, Jose Andres, there's a very heart-wrenching video of him standing in a square in Poland in the dead of night, looking absolutely frozen, talking about what he's trying to do there. And he's kind of close to tears. And he's a great guy. So because of the connection with the food, I thought, they're there making food for all the refugees that are arriving. So that's what I'm planning to do. And I'll probably arrange to send all that sometime next week, because I've got donations coming in from other places as well. So anyway, that being said, we're going to have a little bit of fun in this wonderful effort to raise some money. Somebody asked me, what do you know about Ukrainian food? I said very little, but I learned. I found out about quite a bit and read up on it and some of the history of it and everything. And I intentionally picked some fairly straightforward recipes, not just ease of cooking, really just ease for you to get the ingredients, because I know myself how tricky it can be running around all over God's green earth trying to find ingredients for different things. And I think some of you may have seen that if you couldn't get farmer's cheese, you can use ricotta or cottage or whatever. But if you manage to get the farmers, that's great. But we are going to do these 4 different things. They're nothing too terribly difficult, but sort of symbolic in a way of some of the traditions in Ukraine. I was going to do borscht, but it takes quite a long time to cook. People tend to think of that as Russian, but it is actually Ukrainian in origin. But I decided it was probably a little bit laborious, and we're going to stand here and watch it make. And lots of potatoes, lots of pancakes, and consequently, that's what we're going to do. For the smoked salmon, we're going to cook the potatoes and we're going to mash them, and then we're going to make little pancakes and we're going to saute them and put the topping on top. Now, for all us Pittsburghers, you may look at this Halushki recipe and go, that's not Halushki, because we think of Halushki as cabbage, like a cabbage soup. But this actually has an H in it as well. So it's SHKI, which I believe the Polish version doesn't. So it's very different. It's a kind of little pasta or dumpling. So we basically make a very basic pasta, roll it out really thin, and we boil it in water. And then we saute onions and mushrooms in some together. And then we add the pasta to it. And it's served as a lunch or a light main course. So we're going to make that. The pasta's really easy. A bit of bacon thrown in there as well. So that's kind of nice. And then traditionally, this is served with a salad. So this cucumber and tomato salad is one of the most common ones. Not wildly unusual, but what does make it kind of unusual, it has sesame oil in it in the dressing. And this all gets put together, so it allows it to marinate and sit for a little while. So the flavors really get, well blended. And the white wine vinegar is to taste. It depends on how sharp your tomatoes are and things. So you make it and then you taste it. And then you want this to sit for a good half an hour or so the flavors kind of blend together. And then the dessert we're going to do are the pancakes made with your farmer's cheese or your ricotta cheese. I'm going to do these in my electric mixer. If you have a hand mixer, that's ideal. Otherwise, you've got a lot of elbow grease if you can use just a regular whisk like this. But if you have some sort of electric mixer, that's a good way of combining it, because we're going to mix all those things together, flour, sugar, and the cheese. And the baking soda we're going to add with vinegar to make it react, and then we add that to it as well. and then we add some raisins to it, and you'll have it'll be a little bit lumpy. And then these are going to get little pieces. We're going to dredge them in flour. We're going to saute them, and then we're going to serve them. I've got raspberries. You could do them with berries. You could do them with a jelly if you wanted to. A little bit of sour cream. Again, make it more Americanized. You could use regular cream if you wanted to, and then a dusting of powdered sugar on the top. So hopefully nothing too taxing, and I'll try not to go too fast. All right. So we're going to start off by cooking the potatoes. And I gave you, a small amount, because I didn't want you to be standing here peeling potatoes for like 2 hours. But I want you to peel them and then just cut them into smallish pieces, because they'll cook quicker that way. And then we combine them with the flour and all the mixture. And then we let it sit, put it in the fridge or cool, and let it cool for about 45 minutes before we make it into our little appetizer sort of circles that we're going to saute and pop in the fry pan, cook them, and then serve them with the smoked salmon, or you could serve them with anything on top. Quite nice. A little bit different from a little nicer from doing crackers. All right. So I have about a half a pound of potatoes here. Just going to peel them roughly. I put my water on. If you want to put your water on, I know they can go in cold water, but you can start it off a little bit, get it going. I had mine on a minute ago to warm it up, so these will cook a little bit quicker by having the water on first. So, yeah, small pieces will mean they'll cook quicker. I just want to give these a quick rinse so we don't have all the dirt in there. And then I'm just going to chop them up. So I've got them pieces about that size. All right. Because again, that will just make them cook faster. So I'm going to pop them into my water, put my water back on. And we do want to cook them till they're nice and soft, because we're going to mash them, and they're going to get mixed with the flour and everything, so they want to be nice and soft. All right, and I have my trash bowl here I'm going to use. There we go. So, salt, make sure you got salt in the water. All right, they do need salt in the water, so they taste of something when they come out. All right. So once you've got those in the oven, we're going to do the salad, because we do want to let this sit, as I said, to marinate a little bit. I have an English cucumber here that I bought. You could do with a regular cucumber, really, it would be fine. But I have so I have cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes, my cucumber, my red onion, my dill, sesame oil, vinegar. All right, and I've got my oil over here. So I'm going to pull this off here like this. So with the cucumber, a little bit, this end of my cucumber is a little bit soft actually, which is, I must have picked up a bit of a soft one. I grabbed it quickly yesterday and it's okay, there's plenty here. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Didn't pick a very good one. I got it yesterday. So not a lot of onion in this. You can put more onion in it, obviously, if you want to. I've got the one cucumber, which I'm going to chop up now. This is, from what I can see from looking at this, not skinny pieces. This is cubes of cucumber. So, and again, bearing in mind as it's going to sit, if it was thin slices, it would probably go a bit slimy. So I've done kind of little chunks like that. All right. And you want to put these in a bowl, a non-metallic bowl, because they're going to sit with the oil and the vinegar on it, and they will pick up a metallic taste from the vinegar if you put it in a metal bowl. So glass bowl, wooden bowl, ceramic's fine. Anything that isn't metal, okay? This cucumber smells really nice. I've forgotten how good English cucumbers. I tend to, I don't need English cucumbers, you know, being English, but they're better, in my humble opinion. And with your tomatoes, when we chop those up, now mine are actually, I bought these lovely these toms, which are a mixture of little grape ones and some cherry ones. So I'm going to cut some of them more than the others because they're slightly different sizes, but it depends what you bought. You can cut them all the same size if you want. Oops, lost a piece on the floor. Okay, this is my trash bin. I'll put this right here. So here I might say my tomatoes, these are quite big. So I'm actually going to cut the cherry ones in 4, but the little tiny grape ones I have like this, I'm just going to cut in half. There are lots of potato salads as well in Ukrainian cuisine, from what I could see. But I decided we didn't really want potato salad if we're having a pasta, and then, you know, with the dumplings and the pancakes, I thought it might be a bit too much. So I thought this might be a little healthier, lighter. Oops. There we go. So our dressing for this, so I'm going to have the onions and I'm going to have the dill in a minute, but the dressing is extra virgin olive oil, sesame oil, salt and pepper, and then to taste a little bit of the white vinegar. So I'll mix it together, give it a taste, and then decide how much white vinegar I want to add. Not a lot, just maybe a teaspoon or so. You need a little bit of, we'll see, a bit of oil, a bit of acid in there to counteract the oils. I thought this was fascinating, so it was quite unusual to see sort of sesame oil in there, which seemed to be an interesting combination, really, sesame oil. Looks nice and colorful already. So with my red onion. Now the amount you put in, it's up to you. You can slice it or dice it. It's entirely up to you. I think I'm going to dice. I love red onions, so I might go a little heavy on that, but probably for this amount of tomatoes and the cucumber, 2 to 3 tablespoons, I think should be a good amount. Now, when you cut your onion, I don't know if you can see this, but this is, for those of you who don't know how to do this, this is the root of your onion. All right, and this is the other end, and I've taken everything off here, and I'm making slices into the onion this way. Now, if I'm cutting the whole onion, I would make the slices all the way to the back of the onion like this. Equal, oh, is that somebody else? Equal distance apart. Just get my mouse going up. Doesn't want to cooperate. Let me do it on here. Yeah, you want them equal distance apart, because then you get equal size pieces. This is always the way. This is the way I always cut onions, no matter what sort of onion it is. And you try and keep the root intact. So I've cut all these slices around like this now, and my onion is separated like that, but it's still joined at the end. So that enables me to turn the onion like this and then make small cuts, and your pieces should be fairly equal size if you do it like that. If you've just joined us, could you mute yourself, please? Because we're getting feedback. I can hear somebody's doggy.
That's mine. Hey.
So this is really nice and colorful with those 3 simple ingredients, and when our tomatoes are good, you could use our regular tomatoes here. Obviously, this time of year, you're better off with the little great ones or the imported ones or whatever. They're a little better. But in the, in the middle of the summer, if you've got nice homegrown tomatoes, this would be perfect for that. So into here, I'm going to put, seems to be a lot of dill in Ukrainian food too. We're going to use it a couple of times. Fresh dill, don't use the dried stuff when you put it in a salad. And I did wash this earlier on, but I'm going to dice it up now. Excuse me. It always has such a nice, fresh taste, smell and taste. So I'm going to pop all that in there. Now, if you wanted to ring the changes on this, there's no reason why, you could make it your own version and put basil in there or something like that. I'm just going to get a glass of water. You have a tickle. There we go. All right, so we are now going to add our oil. And sorry, wrong tray. Here we go. So as I say, I have 1 tablespoon of sesame oil for the amount I have in here. All right. Obviously, you can adjust these amounts. I'm going to pour this in. So we're not actually making a dressing. We're just adding the dressing ingredients. And then we're going to add a tablespoon of olive oil. Put it in here so I can judge it. So now perhaps you can see why we need a bit of vinegar, because at the moment we've got all oil and we need a bit of vinegar in there. So I have white vinegar in here, but I'm going to put a bit of salt in with this first. I do like salt. And I'm going to toss this around a little bit. I'm just going to give the liquid a taste. Yeah, it needs a little. Now, there's no reason why you couldn't use lemon juice for this as well. But I'm going to put in, I'll do it on the spoon so I don't spill too much in. Yeah, that's good. That's got a nice taste now of a little bit of acid in there. That'll help to soften the vegetables as well, soften our tomatoes and our onions and our cucumber, and make the salad, even nicer tasting, because it will have actually had a chance to soften up. So easy peasy, right? Not difficult. So I'm going to put this in the fridge until we're ready to serve it. My potatoes are getting there. They're almost soft, just not quite. Now, yours probably aren't either just yet. Okay. Everybody okay? Haven't lost anyone? So once you've got the salad in the fridge, as I say, nice idea about this is you can leave it. You could leave it for more than half an hour, really. You wouldn't want to leave it overnight because it will get too mushy, for want of a more technical word. But it would get a little mushy, so it's better to make it, half an hour before, something like that. But you could make it in advance. Let's take a look at the dessert recipe. Serinki, I'm going to pronounce this. I don't know whether that's right. That's going to be my pronunciation. As I say, I'm going to make this in the mixer. So we're going to put the cheese, whatever sort you have, and the egg eggs and flour. And remember, you want an extra quarter cup that we're going to dredge in. Sugar, salt, and then baking powder is going to mix with the vinegar added to that. And then the raisins are going to go in. All right. Let me bring my other tray out. Put this one back down here. I'm actually going to, my potatoes are almost done. So I'm actually going to turn them off, let them sit in the hot water for a bit, because then they won't overcook, because they'll just soften a little bit more. So if you are using an electric mixer, you want to use your flat beater for it. Okay. I'm just going to turn mine around a bit so you can see it right here. I'm going to put my flat beater on. There we go. So in here, I'm going to put in my cheese. I'll do it in the order it's in there. Let's wipe this off. So 1 cup of cheese. I say either farmer's cheese, ricotta. You can even you could use mascarpone. It's a little sweet. Even cottage cheese or ricotta, or as I say, farmer's cheese. Whatever you can get hold of. So that's my cheese. 2 eggs, 2 large eggs. And then my flour. I apologize. I've just realized in the recipe, it says 3/4 cup of flour. I halved this recipe, so it is still 6 tablespoons. I do apologize. I'm terrible at that. I change recipes, never get to alter the amount. So 6 tablespoons of flour, okay? And then our sugar, not a lot of sugar, about 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. That's a little light. I'm going to put a tiny bit more in there. I think I measured 1.5 teaspoons. And our salt. So salt, we need about 1/4 teaspoon, 1/8 of a teaspoon. There we go, in there. And we're going to mix this all together. So say you can do it with a hand mixer, no problem. It won't be hard to mix together. It's not a difficult combination, amount of ingredients. Okay, so what you're going to do is let's turn this off for a second. Your vinegar and your baking soda, combine them together and it should sizzle up, which is what it's meant to do. And once it sizzles up, you're going to pop it in there and mix that again. Now this will be like a batter, but we're going to take spoonfuls of this and we're going to coat them in flour before we cook them. All right. So there we go. Hard to drive this thing back to front when I'm not facing it. Now your raisins. Obviously you can put other things in. It doesn't have to be raisins. Could be currants. Could be cranberries. Whatever you like. For your raisins, you want to just stir in. You don't want them to break up. So I'm just going to take a wooden spoon and stir them in. So this is like a cake batter, really. All right. So when we spoon this into our dredging flour, we're going to spoon it in and then lightly coat it, then pick it up with a spoon and then put it in the fryer when we cook it. Okay. So let's put that to one side for a minute, because if your potatoes are done, which I hope they nearly are, we're going to drain those and we're going to mash them. So I'm just going to drain them in the sink here and then put them back in the same pot, all right, to mash them. So just nice and soft, all right? Just move this to one side a minute. So just with a regular masher, just mash them up. And when they're mashed, or even just before, you're going to add about 4 teaspoons of butter. All right. I have my butter here. I'm going to cut it into a few pieces because it's still a little firm from being in the fridge earlier. But it will obviously soften up in here. When your potatoes are all mashed, we are then going to add some flour. But make sure they're really nice. And we can do this all in here, all right? So nice mashed potatoes. All right, so how much flour am I putting in here? Yes, 1/4 cup. Okay, that's what I have. 1/4 cup of flour. I'm going to pop that in. I'm going to use the masher again to mix it up. You do it with your hands too if you want to, but this works. Really mash that in. If you find, I mean, it should matter. If you find your mixture's a little dry, add a tiny bit more butter. All right, mine seems to be coming together. Don't do it too quickly. I mean, make sure that you give it a good chance to mix together, because you're making really, you know, it's not just potatoes, it's kind of a dough. So you want it to mash together. And but it should be like still just like dried potatoes, okay? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to cover this with the lid, and I'm just going to pop it in the fridge to let it cool, so that when we go to make these, the mixture will be nice and cool.
How much flour did you add to that?
1/4 cup.
1/4 cup, thanks.
My hands a quick wash. There we go. So my sour cream, my dill, and my smoked salmon on there for later. All right. Clean up a bit so I can see what I'm doing. So we are going to cook the dessert pancakes, all right? The serinki. You can tell how good I'm terrible at languages. I'm terrible at pronunciation. Good job I cook better than I speak a different language. But that's what we're going with. So for these, all right, so we've got the raisins in there. Depending on what cheese you use, you may have a few bit of lumps. I don't, because I use ricotta, and it's a smooth ricotta, so I don't. So what we're going to do, we're going to heat a skillet. We're going to put 1 or 2 tablespoons of olive oil in there, and we're going to put some flour in a little bowl like this, just an amount of flour, because this is what you're going to dredge them in. And then you're going to put a heat tablespoon in, and we're going to gently turn it over and cover it with the flour before we put it in the oil, okay? Because we want it to be covered so that it doesn't stick. So get a skillet, non-stick skillet, pour in sort of 2 to 3 tablespoons of oil and let it heat up on like a medium heat, okay? Not too hot. So I'm going to let that heat a little bit before I start because I want to be able to put them in. Now we can put a number in, we can put 3 or 4 in or 5 in depending on how big a skillet you're using, but you don't want to crowd it too much because you want to be able to use a spatula to turn them over without them breaking and falling apart, all right? I suggest you have a plate, or I think I'm going to use one of these actually, something to lay them on when they're cooked, all right? You can just use a large cookie sheet if you want to, whatever you want to use, really. So you want, as I say, you want medium heat on here, not too hot, because we want them to cook. We don't want them to be all mushy in the middle. And we're going to use about a tablespoon, all right, in each one, roughly. Now, you can make these any size you want. You can make them tiny, you can make them bigger. Too big would probably be a little problematic getting them in and out of the skillet. So I would say, 2.5, 3 inches across is probably good. So let's see. Good idea. Sometimes take a little bit of your dough, just drop it into your skillet. Yeah, mine's not quite hot enough yet. You want it to start sizzling straight away as soon as you put it in. All right, but not go too crazy, but just enough that it looks like it's doing something. And almost there, but not quite. So about another 10 seconds, then I'm going to do that. So remember, this is our dredging mixture. So I'm going to take a spoonful like this. Okay. I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to drop it into there like that. All right. And then I'm going to take my spoon and I'm going to gently tip it over like that. All right. Oh, it's hot enough now. Let me turn it down a wee bit. All right, now am I going to use, yes, I think I'll use my, I was going to use this, but I think I'm going to use a slotted spoon to get it out. That'll be a little easier. I won't have so much flour on it, all right? I'm going to pop it in here and give it a shake, all right? And then I am going to drop it in there. Not the prettiest shape, the first one. Not too bad. Mine are about, yeah, I'm keeping mine fairly small. Mine are about 2.5 inches across, something like that. All right. So I think I'm going to put this in something shallower. I think it might be easier if we go like that in a shallow dish like this. It'll be a little easier to get them in and out. All right. So second spoonful, big spoonful, drop it in. Flatten it out a little bit, and then I'm going to take my. So you're going to play around with your heat, all right? See what works. So gently give it a shake like that, and flip it over. All right. Yeah, that one was pretty good. So give it a shake off like that. It doesn't matter if it loses its shape, but you want to get some of the extra flour off. Then pop it in, because you can shape it a little bit when you put it in here. All right. It's going to be a bit bigger, I think. You can also go put a little bit of flour on the top first as well, if you want. If that's a little easier for you to work with, it might be. Oop, lost it. So I'm going to pop him in here. Yeah, I think I like doing them in here because it really gets rid of the extra flour. All right, little soft. Drop it in there and then smooth it out once it's in your pan. Bit of a messy job, this. Let's see how this one's doing. Nope, not yet. You want them nice and golden brown on each side, okay? So whatever works best for you, whether putting the flour on the top first works better, it's up to you. It's a bit of trial and error, I think, with this. Yeah, definitely putting in my little shaker gets rid of all that extra flour. Leave that one for a second. All right, I'm going to show you. I'm going to lift this. Can you see that first one? It's slightly brown, just nice and golden brown. And I could pick it up. If you can't pick it up, it isn't ready for you to turn it over, okay? Yeah, we've got a few more in here. I want to wait until I get a couple more done. Checking on the time, okay. Yeah, so I think what we'll do, we'll make like 6 of these. If you have more batter, you can make some more later. I don't want us to be standing here forever making these. And then we'll move on to our next thing. Gosh, I think my first one was the best. It's a bit of a funny shape. Well, never mind, they all taste good, right? So I'm going to put them on. Where did I put my cookie sheet? I'm going to put, oh, there it is. So the second side probably won't take as long to cook. Let's see, yeah, that's good. So I'm just going to lay it on there. Okay. And then I can put my next one in. Give it a shake in here. Turn it out. And then I'm going to shape it a little bit in here. Ooh, move this one out of the way. There. Good. Looks good. All right. Definitely works better in a deeper, a shallower bowl for sure. All right, it's my second one. Let me put this one in. Oops, I'll turn this one over. There we go. Just keep an eye on your heat. So you may need to turn it down a little bit as you're going along. And you may need to add a bit more oil, particularly if you didn't quite get all that flour off, okay? There we go. All right, this one should be almost done. Yeah, perfect. It's a bit big, that one, but never mind. Someone's going to get a big one. Bit more oil right there. There we go. And I'm going to do one more. Yeah, really make sure you get that flour off because it tends to burn if you pop it in the pan. All right. There we go. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this because I made a lovely big mess now. And I may cook the other ones a little later. Let's get rid of these. Oh my goodness. How to make a mess in your kitchen. Flour everywhere. Got most of it off. Flip the board over. That works best. Now, these want to be cold, or cool at room temperature, so it's fine that we've done them ahead of time, okay? So, let's see how we're doing here. Nope. Well, we're getting there. That's definitely a bit of an odd shape, that one. There we go. All right. Almost done. Even though they're not the prettiest shape, but they're like pancakes, so yeah. Whatever. You don't want to cook them for too long. Don't want to be too dry. All right. This little guy. Let's see. A couple more minutes on that one. All right. Hope everybody's doing okay. Moving along. Let's see what I've got down for us to do next. Good job. I got a list. All right. We're going to do the halushki in a minute. All right. What are we doing for time? Okay. Yeah, if we've got time at the end, I'll come back and finish some of these and do a few more. I just want to make sure we get through everything. All right. They're good. They're very light. All right, so this, as I say, don't think halushki as we think halushki, Pittsburgh halushki, okay? This has got an H in it. Very different altogether, okay? So when you're ready, if you take a look at the recipe, you can see this is a very sort of down-to-earth, ethnic-y, old-fashioned origins. No fancy equipment, no pasta machine or anything like that. It's just basically egg, flour, salt, water, and butter. All right, all mixed together. And from that, we make little long strings of dough. We cut those and then we cook them in boiling water. All right. What I want you to do, your butter for this, you want to melt. So you can melt it however you like. Microwave is probably as good a place as any. But about 2.5 tablespoons of butter you might want to melt. And then you also want 1/4 cup of lukewarm water. I'm going to pop this in. Okay. So just slightly warm. This time of year, it takes ages for the water to heat up. Great.
Dana, I missed that. What did you do?
Oh, just 1/4 cup of lukewarm water and 2.5 tablespoons of your butter. Melt it in the microwave.
Okay.
All right. All right, so this is our flour. This stuff is for our mushrooms in a minute, so I'm going to pop this back down here. So, in a biggish bowl, it doesn't need to be that large because I'm not doing a huge amount, but in here, you want to put your flour and your salt in the bowl. I've got my eggs sitting in here. So this is my flour. I've got, what have I got? 1 1/4 cups of flour, yeah. And salt, about 1/4 teaspoon of salt, all right? So what we're going to do with this, we're going to make a well in the middle and add the egg. What I want you to start off with is with a wooden spoon, all right? Because otherwise the egg will get stuck up in the bits of the mixer. So take your egg and mix it first, though. Break it and mix it up. And you can do that with your whisk. So just now, the reason you do this by putting your egg in the middle with your water and your butter is that we slowly incorporate that into the flour so we don't end up with a lumpy dough. So it goes right now well in the middle. We're going to add our butter as well. 2 1/2 tablespoons of butter in there too. And a 1/4 cup of lukewarm water. All right. So you want to work from the inside out, slowly mixing this together. And get that, because this helps to avoid lumps, all right? Seems a little tedious, but it's better than trying to get all the lumps out afterwards. And don't worry if some of it slops over, you know, out of your well, that's fine. So basically what it means, you're slowly incorporating the liquid without dumping it all together and trying to get it to mix, all right? The flour gets slowly added so it doesn't clump up. It'll get a little harder at the end to get it all to mix in. Now you could do this in a mixer too, but I thought we'd just go by hand because I think it's not going to be too terrible to do this. You might even find it easy to get in with your hands for the last bit and get that last bit of flour mixed in. Put these out of the way. Clean off my. So yes, I'm going to do this now. Just get my hand in there and press it into the flour that's in the bottom and get it all incorporated. Because this wants to be a dough, but it doesn't want to be super, super sticky, okay? So we want it to be a bit like a, you know, like any dough, like any pasta dough or anything you make or whatever. So it's too sticky, it's going to stick to the table and we're not going to be able to roll it out. Getting there. All right, I'm going to move my chopping board for a minute because I'm going to use this to roll out. Now, what I want you to do before we start rolling out, I haven't quite got there yet, is to put a big pot of water on, salted water, okay? Now, you can do these in batches rather than use a great big pot. You can do a few, use a slotted spoon to get them out if you want, which is probably what I'm going to do. I'm filling this about 2/3 full. And of course, with pasta, you need the water wants to be at a boil when you put the stuff in, and you want our salt in there. So I'm going to put about a tablespoon of salt in here to make the pasta taste good, okay? Right, nearly there. All right. Last little bit I'm going to need on the Come on, that's it. So we're going to divide this dough in about 8 pieces. It doesn't have to be 8, whatever's comfortable for you to work with when you roll it out. We're going to roll them out like to thin strings, and then we can cut them in like 1-inch pieces, all right? What I suggest then is that you have something you can put them on. I think what I'm going to use actually is a couple of clean towels, dish towels, which I think I'm going to use to lay them out on when I'm done. I'll see if that works. All right, so I need my flour again. Lightly flour, all right, because you want to be able to get a bit of traction when you roll this out. So I'm going to divide this in about 8 pieces. Don't have to be exactly the same size. We've got a bit of dill stuck on there, never mind. All right. Now, the reason I said you don't want too much flour is because you want to be able to get a bit of traction on your work surface when you're rolling these out, all right? If you haven't got any traction, the dough's just going to slide. But you don't want it to stick. So we're going to roll them out to about pencil thickness, all right? Try and roll from the inside out, like middle out, I mean. You'll get a little bit more even rolling that way. Don't try not to go down on the ends, because that way you'll end up with all, it'll all be skinny at the end. Whoop, that one broke. Never mind, doesn't matter. We'll just roll the small bit. Yeah, I'm losing a bit of traction here, so I need to try and thin this bit out a little bit. So this is the sort of thing we did before pasta machines. We didn't, but people did, and probably still do. All right. This bit's a little thick at this end, and when I cut that bit, I'm going to, when I cut it in a 1-inch piece, I might make that bit thinner. So about 1 inch long, roughly. All right. Now this bit here I have, it's a little thick, so I'm going to roll it in my hands. There, thin it out a bit. There we go. So I'm going to lay these, I can get a bit of room here, on towel here, because it means it's easy to pick them up and dump them in to your into your hot water. All right, I don't think I need to fold my sleeves up, they drive me crazy. There we go. All right, so if you're losing, if you can't get the traction going, even doing it in your hand works as well. Yeah, if you do have it's sliding too much, put a tiny drops of water on there. That'll help it to get more traction on your counter, depending on, because it will make it a bit stickier. I was too much flour. There we go. All right. 1, 2. It's a bit like making gnocchi, but not doing the rolly bit at the end, right? Yeah, who needs a pasta machine? You can do this instead, right? So remember, try and roll from the inside out, from the middle out, I should say. Oh, this one's going a bit better. I think I had too much flour on the table. Try and keep them fairly even if you can. Yeah, that's definitely a bit better than the last one. All right, 1, 2. A little bit of the dill that's sticking to everything. I don't know where it came from. Right, let's see. Oh, I'm getting a bit. There we go. Better. Sort of things kids like doing, stuff like this.
Jenner,
Yes, yes.
Would you say you're rolling to about like a finger?
Maybe, yeah, pinky.
Size of-
About a pinky thickness if you can.
Okay.
Or as close as you can without all the dough breaking.
Okay.
It's more a case of getting them even so that they cook the same amount of time, really. Oh, she knows. A little one at the end there. But yeah, I'm putting them on the towels, so it does make it a bit easier to, sorry, I just need to, an itch on my nose. Okay. Nice thing about it is your water's boiling while you're doing this. Come on. So. Oh, don't like that piece. Was it? My dough was splitting a little bit. It was coming apart, so I rolled up again. That's better. There we go. Yeah, something you might find that the way it's just massed together, it's splitting a bit. So then just roll it up again and start again. A bit more. Oh, there we go. Now my water's almost boiling, so I might put my first half in. Just start this one off because it's probably easier to do them in two halves than trying to do it all at once, unless you've got a really big pot of water. Yes. All right. So I'm boiling. So I am going to, this is what I do in my dish towel. Pick my dish towel up like this, whip them in, and just drop them in like that. And when they float, they're done. So I'm going to just give my solid spoon a wash. And have the thing ready to catch them in a minute. Whoop. All right. Something satisfying about doing this, I think. I prefer doing this to the pasta machines.
If our dough doesn't seem to want to stick together, is there an ingredient we should have used more of or less of?
Just if it's not, if it isn't sticking together, add a little bit more water to it. Just a tablespoon of water at a time, and see if that'll do it. Just
Okay.
mix it together with the tip. Yeah, sometimes it could be your flour. I mean, flour's weird. It, you know, every flour is different, and it also depends where you've had it, where you stored it, you know, what brand it is, etc., etc. So it really does. It's not your fault. It's the dough. It's the flour, I should say. Right. As soon as these float, and these almost are. Yep, almost another minute or so, and then I will. I mean, obviously you could just tip them straight into a strainer, but I want to do the second batch in the same water, obviously. So this, I didn't cut this very evenly. This piece is a little big. I'm going to get a very long sausage, I think. Very long string. Running away with me a bit. There we go. All right, so these pretty much look like they are done. Yep. So I'm just going to use a slotted spoon to take them out, and I'm just putting them into a strainer over a bowl. Okay. So they really are more of a dumpling than a pasta, really. But, you know, lost in translation or whatever. Right. So that's those guys. And let me just get this cut, and then I'll have one more. There we go. And this one's a bit small. That's okay. So I'm on my last one. It's a little dry, so I'm just kneading it a little bit. Yep. A bit more water. That's better. Now get the right amount of traction. It makes a lot of difference. Too sticky, no good. Too dry, no good. Ah, come on. Right. Okay. So turn that back up and then pop these guys in. Best tool in the kitchen, bench scraper. You get flour all over the place, it's wonderful. There you go. All right, I'm bubbling again. So it just means you're not trying to pick them all up and drop them in. It's a good way of doing it. We do this in the pasta class with all our pasta because it saves having to pick it all up and get it all stuck together and all that sort of stuff. So, all right, so they're right in here. I'm going to get my chopping board back because we're going to move on to our mushrooms and stuff in a minute as soon as those guys come out. Oops, we lost them. They stuck on that corner. So as soon as these float, give them a little stir. There we go. Make sure they're not sticking together. So once these come out, we're going to let them sit there and get cool for a minute while we slice up and cook our mushrooms, onions, and good old bacon. All right. With your mushrooms, I prefer not to wash my mushrooms. It's better to just wipe them with a damp towel. Ooh, I'm going to send those off the edge of the thing in a minute. I know it, off the edge of the counter any minute now. Yeah, because mushrooms they're a bit like sponges. They absorb water. So if you soak them in a lot of water, they're going to get watery, high water content. All right. Oh, broke that one. Never mind. All right, so these guys are done now. So I'm going to drain these out as well. I'm just going to do it the same way. I mean, I could obviously go and tip it all out, but as I've got the thing, the strainer here on my slotted spoon, I'm going to do it like this. Oops. There we go. And they can just sit right here till we need them. So back to our mushrooms. We're going to slice these, dice them, slice them, big dice. And then about half a small onion. I've got a very large onion here, so I might not use quite half of it. All right. So I'm going to slice these and dice them. Not too small. I've got about a quarter of a pound here. I might be slightly heavy on it. I had some in the fridge. I thought I'm just going to use these. So it's probably about a quarter of a pound. And then, as I said, for onion, now I'm going to dice the onion the same way as I did before. So I'm taking the whole onion like this, half of it right down the middle like that. Pull off the brown stuff. Cut off the stem end. That's the little end. This is the root end. I'm going to leave the root on. All right. And I'm going to do the same thing with those cuts. I'm going to make them a little thicker though, because I want this dice to be a little chunkier. All right. What the heck, I'll use it all. It's fine. Again, the most important thing with this, the reason for doing it like that is you get equal size pieces, and therefore they cook at the same rate, and you won't have burnt bits or raw bits. Okay. Now with my bacon, I've cut this into what we call lardons, but little strips, okay, like that, to cook it in. And I've got those all in there. I've got my butter here. I can get rid of this. So we're going to cook this first before we add it to the dumplings, to the halushki, okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to put some butter in a saute pan and cook the mushrooms. I've got about a tablespoon of butter here. All right. I'll let that melt. I'm actually going to add a little drizzle of olive oil too as well. So I've got quite as much oil there as I thought I did. So I'll cook the mushrooms, add the onions, and then after that we're going to heat the halushki in a separate pan. All right. If you look at the step 5, place the dumplings into a separate non-stick skillet and add the sauteed mixture and the butter. Cook until golden brown, adding additional butter if needed, and then serve. All right. I'm going to add actually, because I know I've got up here bacon pieces, and I'm going to add those as well, obviously after I've cooked the mushrooms and the onions. All right. So medium-high heat. And then you can melt your extra little bit of butter for the halushki if you want to. Do I have extra butter here? Maybe I don't. I'll grab some more. Just a little bit of butter for cooking, heating up the halushki. All right. So I'm going to pop that in there and just get that melted. Lots of skillets tonight. A lot of the same skillet. I get some more water because I put my fingers in that one for the water for the dough. There we go. So just let the mushrooms cook for a minute or two, and I'm going to add the onions. Yeah, a little bit too heavy on the onions there. And let these cook till the onions are like golden brown, all right? Break up your onions a bit so they cook. Okay, so that needs a few minutes. This is melting, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit. That's the one to put the noodles back in a minute. So we're cooking these until they're lightly golden brown. We're going to throw the bacon in, some salt and pepper, cook for another 4 or 5 minutes. Then we're going to put the pasta in here and add the vegetables to it and cook until they go lightly brown. And then that's it. Extra butter if needed. Always extra butter, right? So nice, pretty easy dish. These are pretty easy to make, I must admit. I'm going to taste one like this. Oh, tastes like dumplings, like noodles. I probably have a bit too much bacon here too. I just cut up like 5 slices of bacon, so it might be a bit too much. So after we've done this, we just really have to make our smoked salmon little appetizer. So for this, we're going to take, remember our potatoes that are in the fridge, we're going to take them out. We're going to put a bit of flour on our work surface. We're going to pat out the dough. You can roll it out if you want, but you can probably just pat it out. And then we're going to cut them with I'm cutting with a cookie cutter. You can use a small glass or something, and you can make them whatever size you want. I'm going to go with fairly small ones. This is probably about 1.5 to 2 inches. You can go any size you want or whatever size you have. You just want something round that you can cut them out with. All right. And they are going to cook in a skillet. Lots of skillets today. And we take them out, and then we're going to top them with a little bit of sour cream and a little bit of smoked salmon, and then a little tiny bit of dill for decoration. All right. Now my onions are softening, so I am going to add my bacon to this. I'm going to break up these pieces because I've got them in little strips. I'm going to put them in strips because it makes it they cook a bit better like that than if you get them all sticking together. It's a little fiddly. Whoops, there we go. Nothing like bacon. Bacon on a good day. Bacon is always a good day with bacon, right? I probably got a bit more than I needed, but I'm going to put it all in anyway. All right, so while that's cooking, we want to toss it around a bit to make sure the bacon cooks. And I'm going to clear the decks a bit again so we can do. Just making sure that was the flour, not the confectioner sugar. It was. It wouldn't be confectioner sugar, but it was just in case. Right, a few more minutes on that. Right, so I'm going to get my dough out of the fridge. Not my dough, my potatoes, I should say. And this should be nice and easy to handle now. Obviously, it's cold. It's kind of stuck together. All right, so I've got flour on here. You will need a fairly good amount of flour because you don't want this to stick. Now, you could use a rolling pin, but to be quite honest, I've got a little bit of flour on the top. You can just really flatten it out. All right. So see, we've got a nice big piece like that. Let's just get this finished first. So I'm going to flatten these out to about a 1/2 inch thickness, okay, and then cut them out, and then we're going to cook them. So yet another skillet, which I will get out in a minute. People say my kitchen was a mess. I go, so's mine. When we were during COVID, when we were doing all the classes virtually, people that had done classes with me at the school said, I miss having someone wash the dishes for me. I said, yeah, I know. I make my husband do it after class. But yeah, it's not quite the same. Not quite the same. All right, so make sure your bacon's nicely cooked. All right. I am going to just cut up a little bit of my smoked salmon here in a couple of pieces. Actually, I'm gonna stand here and do it because I don't want to bring the chopping board back over there. I'm just going to break it up a little bit so that we can. I'm going to cut it in strips, just small strips. All right. So it'll be easy for me to put it onto my little guys. And I'm doing a few lemon slices. There we go. Just have those ready. All right, so I have my melted butter in here. I'm going to put the pasta, the noodles in here, separate them out a bit, put my heat on, medium high, and then adding the mushrooms, the onions, and the bacon to that. Now, my bacon's not crispy, it's fairly soft, but don't forget it'll crisp up a little bit more while it's in here. So I didn't want it to be, I don't want to get it burnt. Didn't want it to burn. That's easier. All right. So we're going to let these noodles get a little bit of color, okay? And then I'm going to find a bowl to put them in. Oh, smells great. Hope yours does too. Do want to put a little bit of pepper in there. Don't want to forget that. So turn it over a little bit, stir it around. So it cooks a bit more evenly. And so large skillet we're going to use for our potato appetizer, all right? So I'm going to let that warm up a little bit. And then I'm going to put a little bit of oil in there, of course. There we go. So let that heat up, not too hot, but let it heat up a little bit. We just want to add a little bit of color on these, not too much. We don't want them to brown too much, okay? I'm going to put my little circles on here once they've cooked to drain on the paper towel, okay? Let's try one of these and see how they taste. Good. A little bit more. All right, so I'm just going to start flattening this out a little bit. It's almost done. Make sure you keep the flour underneath so that they don't stick to the table. So see how easily it flattens out? So you really don't need a rolling pin. In fact, a rolling pin will be hard because it'll probably stick because they are, a little soft. So about 1/2 inch thick, all right? Like that. All right, I'm going to turn this off and come back to it in a couple of minutes and just finish it off when we're ready to serve it. So I'm taking my cookie cutter now. Make sure you put flour on your cookie cutter, all right? Because you want to make sure your little circles don't stick. So I'm adding a bit of flour each time to stop them from sticking. Okay, almost every time. Okay, so this is fairly hot, so I'm going to put these in, sizzling a little bit. Let me use the edge of this to pick them up. That's it. Leave a space between them, all right? Don't put them too close together. They'll cook quicker like that. And also they'll be easier to get out of the pan. I can probably get these two little guys in the middle. 1, 2, and then I'll just re-roll this down and do a few more. All right, so lightly golden brown on each side, just like the other ones were. All right, bit more flour. Okay. Okay. Use it all up. Why not, right? Ah. All right. Should be able to get one more out, one more little one out of there, I think. Might be a bit of a titchy one. Yeah. It's going to be a freelance one. free-form one, I should say. There we go. All right, so where is my spatula? Well, I'll use another one. Use this one. Nope, haven't started going brown yet. That's okay. Just pop these 2, 5. I'm going to bring my chopping board back here. There we go. All right. Oh yeah, so nice golden brown. Because you want to be able to pick these up, and if they're too soft, they're not brown enough, they'll be, if they're not brown enough to be too soft, is what I'm trying to say. So I've got them on like a medium heat, all right, not too hot, because I do want them to firm up a bit in the middle as well. Now, those two are a little soft. So I'm going to put them on here and drain them, and then we'll be ready to put stuff on the top. I've just put a little bit more oil on. I'm going to do the last of those dessert things in a second, if I have time. I'll just sort of heat the oil up a little bit to do that. All right, let's try these guys over.
So Gaynor, I got about 10 or 12 of those little biscuit patties.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I've got 15.
Oh, okay.
But I use a small ring.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's okay. It's fine. Whatever you get is good. But I lose stuff all the time. And I put my spot thing. There it is. I got it. Here it is. All right. So you want them nice and golden brown on both sides, all right, but still a little soft in the middle. Okay. So just make sure they are. That one's a bit soft. This one's a little bit soft. Try this one. Yeah, that one's needs a little bit more. You can always flip them back again if you think they're a little too soft, I think, because you want to make sure that people can pick them up. So I'm going to leave those for a minute. All right, I am going to do just back here on this thing. I'm just going to do a couple more of those, the dessert things, just to use it up. I'm going to do it here because if I do it over there, I'm going to end up with flour in the smoked salmon, and that would not be good, would it? Or sugar in the smoked salmon, or something I don't want in the smoked salmon. Come off. There we go. Okay. These should be good. Yeah. You can tell because if they lift up easily, then they're going to be done enough, you know. So if they stick to, you know, if they're a bit floppy or stick to the bottom, that one's still a bit, is on the edge a bit, still a little soft. All right, so I can pop these ones in. Last one in there like that. Okay, let's get this little guy out of here. All right. Go let them cool just a little bit, and then we can start putting the topping on them. All right, turn my heat down a wee bit here. Put these guys over. Put a little bit more oil in here, I think. Grab a tiny bit more. All right. All right, so I managed to get 2 more of those little guys, our dessert ones out. All right, so with these little guys, we're going to put them on here. We're going to take, you can put this on however you like. You can spread it on. You can put a little dollop in the middle, which I think is what I'm going to do, like this. And then take maybe a little piece of salmon and twist it on. And then a tiny little bit of dill, not too much, just a little tiny bit. Like this. And then a teeny little bit of lemon. Not a whole big piece, just a little tiny piece. Oops, I'll pick it up. I'm just going to pop that right there on the side. All right. You can't, as I say, I think some of the pictures I saw, they were actually, the sour cream was spread on, but I think I like it just sort of like that with a bit of depth to it. You know, it just gives it a bit more interest. Personally, there we go. And then a little bit of dill. Dill always looks so pretty color-wise, I think. Looks really nice. A tiny bit of lemon, wherever you want, like that. Oop, a bit more than that. So a little twist of the good old smoked salmon there. It looks nice, kind of just plumped on the top, I think. My hands are a bit sticky. Still sticking to my fingers. There we go. Okay, how are these little guys doing? Oh, getting there. I'll turn the heat down a bit too much. There we go. Right, let's try and do these a little quicker. How are we doing for time? Oh, fine. Oh, that wasn't a hair, it was a piece of dill. Got stuck. There we go. Piece of dill. It's sticking to my fingers. And it doesn't want to go anywhere. So, all right. A little piece of salmon. Piece of dill. Tiny piece of lemon. There. I say, it makes a change, this, doesn't it? I'm going to do these. I think they're great because it makes a change from doing things on crackers or, I don't know, just kind of nice to do it on something a little different. So just what I'm doing with this salmon, I'm just literally taking a piece and kind of twisting it on itself kind of thing, just to give it a bit of height and things so that it just makes it look slightly more attractive that way, I think. And because they're small, you know, you just want small bits really, because otherwise it'll fall off. Oh, excuse me. All right, so. Ooh, that piece of still's a bit big, but never mind. It's all stuck to my fingers. I do this when I haven't got my chef's jacket on. I realise, suddenly go, oh shoot, and I realise I've got regular clothes on. And I'm wiping my hands all over my clothes. All right, let's try for another bit of lemon. 1, 2. There we go. As my granddaughter would say, all done. All right, this is a little thick, so I'm going to cut this piece a little thinner. Give it a little twist. Smoked salmon's easy to work with because it's easy to pull off like little pieces and stuff like that. I didn't use anything like all the salmon, but as I said, I made my little guys so tiny and small. It was fine. There we go. Let's see. Let's get these guys out. Doing 4 things at once. Now it's interesting. That dough I left a bit longer. The dessert dough has actually puffed up quite a bit more than the first batch. Isn't that interesting? Didn't realize that was going to happen. They look good like that. All right, so a little bit of dill all around here. Oops. It's kind of like however you plop this on, it looks really pretty, which is always, I always think is a good thing because decorating is not really my forte. So if something's easy, I'm happy with that. There we go. Oops. Right, and finally, a little bit of lemon on each one. So I'm just cutting tiny little pieces of lemon, really just to sort of have on the side. It'll give it a little acidity, which will be nice. You don't want a great big wedge of lemon. And we'll only 2, 1. There we go. All right, so let's then get these on here. Doing something I don't like to do. I'm crowding the plate a bit, but I just want to get them all on there. All right. Okay. I'm going to put this in a bowl, find a bowl, move some of this stuff out of the way. And then all we've got to do now is just put the dessert together and we're good. So. So as I say, I got raspberries for the dessert. I like raspberries, but I mean, you know, you could use anything. You could chop up strawberries, but you could even do it with like a jelly, really. If you want to just put a little jelly on the top, that would work as well. It'll take me a month of Sundays to clean all this up. All right, so for our dessert, I'm going to put one of these on a plate, I think, and decorate it that way. Just put it on a plate like this. So then I have again a little bit of sour cream. So again, you could use cream here. A little bit more, I think, because we want to kind of have plenty on there. And then, now these raspberries are quite big, so I think I might cut them in half. So, you know, I've probably got about 6 on there, something like that, I guess. And then I can't use my shaker because that's what I use to clean the thing. So I'm going to do this. Usually I would put my confection sugar in that little tiny strainer, but I've just used it. So I'm going to have to do it like this. So I get a few lumps on there as well, probably. But all right, like that. And I guess I'll do one more. Why not? Put a couple more, a little bit more. Yeah, these raspberries are huge. I went to my girlfriend's for lunch today, so I ate dessert already, so I shouldn't eat one of these. She made a really good apple crisp. I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to eat later, but maybe I will. Just a little bit. All right, so same again, rather lumpy confectioners, but you get the idea. All right. So finally, I'm going to heat up our dumplings. You do this and this. I'm going to wipe this counter down so it looks slightly more pleasant. And then we'll be done. Okay. So I'm just going to heat that up a bit more, get a little bit more color on that, and then we'll be good. And I'll get the salad out as well. And we can stick it all up here and make it look semi-attractive. Whoop. There we go. Sort of clean. So this is our salad. By now, this should taste. Yeah. Oh, that sesame oil in there is great. I think it needs a tiny bit more salt, but that's me. All right. Now, I would say, although it wasn't suggested, this would loan itself to a good dollop of sour cream on the top, or yogurt would be nice. But keeping in with the theme, dollop of sour cream would go well with this, I think. I'm not using the best spoon here to get this out, but there we go. All right. So let me grab the sour cream. Where I put it? Here we go. And give that a nice dollop of sour cream as well. All right. Okay. So there we have Ukrainian dishes. Okay. I really appreciate you guys joining me tonight, and you know, besides what we made on this class tonight, all our proceeds for this week's classes are all going, all the profits are going to the cause as well. So that will be added to what you guys have donated. If you know anyone else who you think might be interested in donating and would like to watch the video, we'll have the link on the front page of the website, hopefully by Monday or Tuesday. As soon as we can get it turned around, we will do that, okay? And again, thank you so much. And go into a good cause, guys. Go into a good cause, okay? All right, so I'm going to say goodnight.